We'll go ahead and start the meeting. Before we start, we do have an announcement in regards to translation services.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Camino, and I am a staff member in the Planning and Development Department. I'd like to go over a few logistical items prior to starting the meeting. Translation services are available this evening. Once the feature has been enabled, all Zoom participants will need to select the interpretation globe that will appear at the bottom of your screen. You will then select your preferred language. The options that will appear on your screen this evening is English and Spanish.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and take a roll.
Commissioner Lide. Commissioner Diaz.
Here.
Commissioner Bray. Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Kreiner.
Here.
Vice Chair Hardy.
Here.
Chair Vane.
Here. Let's all, everyone, if we can, please stand. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I'll go ahead and read the procedures for the meeting. This meeting is being conducted in person and electronically. The public may participate in tonight's meeting by using the Zoom link provided on the Planning Commission agenda. Please note that all virtual participants will be on mute until they are called upon by the chair, at which point they will be unmuted. If you're a member of the public and would like to comment on an item, use the raise hand function on Zoom. To avoid any confusion, please wait for the item you desire to comment on to be called by the chair before electronically raising your hand. For each matter considered by the Commission, there will first be a staff presentation, followed by a presentation from the project applicant. Testimony from supporters of the project would then be taken, followed by testimony from those in opposition. The applicant will have the right to a final rebuttal presentation prior to closing the public hearing. In accordance with Section 13 of Article 2 of the Planning Commission Rules and Regulations governing the length of public debate, all public testimony from those in support and opposition of the project will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The 3 lights on the podium next to the microphone will indicate the amount of time remaining for the speaker. The green light will be turned on when the speaker begins. Yellow light will come on with the self-bell ring when 1 minute is remaining. The speaker should be completing testimony by the time the red light comes on with the final bell indicating time has expired. All in-person public testimony must be presented to the Commission at the podium. Any testimony that references race, religion, ethnicity, economic status, national origin, or any other classification protected under state or federal law in a derogatory manner shall be deemed irrelevant and will not be considered by the Commission in making its land use determinations. If you challenge these land use matters in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised in oral or written testimony or before the close of the hearing. We'll start today's meeting with the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes?
Good evening, Chair Vang, members of the Planning Commission. Israel Trey with the Planning and Development Department. There are no changes to the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioners, do we have any changes or do we have any motions?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
No.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner Diaz, second by Commissioner Kreiner. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion is approved. Next, we have consent calendar. We have meeting minutes for February 21st and March 6th. Do we have any motions from the Commission?
So moved.
We have a first by Commissioner Kreiner, second by, was that Commissioner Bray? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion is approved. Any reports from the Commissioners? I see none. We'll go ahead and move to new matters. This is for ID 24399, consideration of rezone application number P2302992.
Other one, Carrie. Hey, Carrie, the other PowerPoint. It's a P20, yeah, there you go. Good evening again, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Israel Trejo with the Planning and Development Department. Tonight, before you is consideration of rezone application number P23-02992 and related environmental assessment. Subject application was filed by Gary McDonald. Before I get into the details of the application, just wanted to kind of explain what the application type is. So traditionally, when you hear rezone application, you think of change in land use, i.e. residential to office, office to commercial, commercial to industrial, so on and so forth. In this case, there is no change in land use being proposed. Rather, the application is a request to amend previous conditions of zoning tied to a rezone that was approved back in 2021. Subject property is commonly referred to as Copper River Ranch Development, generally located north of Copper between Friant and Willow Avenues. Just a brief history of Copper River Ranch site. The city of Fresno approved an EIR back in 2003 approved an EIR. Gosh, I should have made these fonts bigger. We will fix that. Are you able to see it now?
Yeah.
All right. In 2003, the city certified an EIR that allowed development of 2,837 dwelling units. That was on approximately 700 acres. Also approved approximately 250,000 square feet of office and commercial use. In 2021, some of you may remember that were on the Planning Commission back at that time, there was a subsequent EIR. So it was a refresh of the EIR that existed at that time. That subsequent EIR approved an additional approximately 100 acres to the Copper River Ranch development area. That project also had various plan amendments and rezones associated with it. So this slide shows generally what was approved in 2003, majority of the west side of the exhibit on the screen, and the subsequent EIR area approved in 2021, generally on the northeast area of this map and the south central area of this exhibit. So I mentioned earlier that there were conditions of zoning placed on the property. So those conditions of zoning were placed on the property back in 2021. Those conditions require various infrastructure and traffic signal improvements required with the project. And there are various thresholds associated with the development. Those requirements are attached as Exhibit D, and those are the memorandum basically from Public Works dated September 28th, 2021. So the existing conditions of zoning, so there's a bit of a nuance here. So the existing conditions of zoning require traffic signals prior to building permits. So what does that mean? That means that the developer can't go and submit building permits unless various traffic signals, which I'm going to go over, unless they're operational. So that's the way the conditions currently read. The application before you, the rezone application before you, is to amend that language from prior to building permits to prior to occupancy. Neither one of those scenarios allow occupancy prior to these signals being operational. So the four signals that are in question are Olympic at Millbrook, Olympic at Cedar, Chestnut at Beheimer, and Chestnut at Somerville. And I have an exhibit here showing the locations. So all the locations are south of the subject site. The two green stars kind of towards the middle of the site, that's Cedar and Millbrook, Millbrook and Cedar, Millbrook, and Olympic. Further to the bottom left of the bottom right is Chestnut and Beheimer, and unfortunately the translation is blocking another signal, Chestnut and Somerville. So those are the signals that are in place. Again, the request is to change the language from prior to building permits change that language to prior to occupancy. Neither one of those scenarios allow occupancy. This application was reviewed by the Council District 6 Advisory Committee, and it was recommended for approval. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council, the rezone application, as well as the related environmental assessment, which is an addendum to the SEIR that was approved by the Planning Commission in 2021. That concludes staff's presentation. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's please have the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioner Vang and Commissioners. My name is Gary McDonald, and I'm representing Copper Development East. Our team of people that are principals are the Assemi family and the Lyles family and myself. I want to, first of all, say thank you for your service, and it's the key to us to be able to orderly do things. We've been working for the past 20 plus years at Copper. There's going to be 10,000 people who live there. So it's not like we can do everything today. It's stretched out. And we're down to the end of our project on the east side. And so there's not anything that the staff has recommended that we're not ready and willing to comply with. I would like to thank the director, Jennifer Clark, also Scott Mosier, who's the director also of Public Works, and especially the person on point has been Israel Trejo. And so in all of this, we're working together as a team, and we ask for your full support unanimously to let us go forward and complete our project. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from the commission?
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'll give us, no, we do have a quorum. We're good. Is she recusing herself? Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Bray is going to recuse herself, so she needs to come back and do that on the record.
Get on the
Yes.
record, yes, please.
Thank you all for your patience. Yeah, we're on four. We're just going to go we're going to have Commissioner Bray come back into.
Could you, yeah, in the mic.
I will need to recuse myself from this one. Possible business.
Thank you very much. Please make a notation that Commissioner Bray is recusing herself. We'll go back. Let's open this to the public. Do we have any individuals who would like to speak in support? If you want to speak in support, please approach the podium, state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes. I see none. How about on Zoom? Do we have any individuals?
No hands at this time.
All right, great, thank you. Let's go ahead and we'll go to the public. Any individuals who would like to speak in opposition? I see none. How about Zoom?
No hands at this time.
All right, thank you. We're just going to go ahead and close all public comments. We'll bring it back to the commission. Do we have any comments or motion from the commission?
I'll do the motion. I would like to do the motion to adopt to the City Council the environmental assessment and recommend approval.
I'll second.
Okay, great. We have a motion made by Commissioner Diaz, second by Vice Chair Hardy. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion's approved. We'll move forward with the next item on the.
Can we pause just for a second to allow Commissioner Bray?
Thank you for your patience. We're going to go ahead and have Commissioner Bray come back and join us before we start the next section. Great. Awesome. So with this item on the agenda, please note that due to translation services, any individuals who, from the public who would like to comment and needs a translation, we're going to allow for double the time. Okay? Staff, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Vang and members of the Commission. My name is Rob Holt with City of Fresno's Planning and Development Department. Tonight, staff brings forth consideration of an appeal of a cannabis CUP and related environmental finding. Before getting into the CUP, just want to briefly go over the overall process of cannabis permits in the City of Fresno. All commercial cannabis businesses are required to obtain a commercial cannabis business permit, and we call it a CCB, through the Office of Cannabis Oversight within the City Manager's Office. Obtaining a CCB requires multiple phases that ultimately lead to a preliminary approval of the CCB. Phase one is the determination of eligibility, which is the applicant submitting a complete application consisting of 7 different components, which include such things as a business plan, a social policy plan, security plan, et cetera, along with other similar requirements, such as the demographics of the company, background checks, et cetera. And then from there, we move to phase 2, which is the criteria evaluation and initial ranking, which is an evaluation of that complete application that was submitted as part of phase 1, and scoring them based on an established scoring procedure, ranking them based on those scoring results, which then leads into phase 3, which is the interview and second ranking process, which are interviews of those that were top 5 ranked from the scoring in phase 2 for each council district, and then given a phase 3 score, which was combined with the phase 2 score for a final. And as part of that, we would go into phase 4, which is the city manager's final determination. And that is a review of the businesses within those top final scores, along with other factors of distance from each other, top business from each other within their district, a 100-foot measurement distance requirement from other uses, along with other factors, which then those are selected and issued a preliminary approval of a CCB. Once they have that preliminary approval, following that, it would allow council members to appeal any of those selected for the CCB that received approval, and if they make it through that process, we then go into the cannabis CUP process, which is where we're here today. The subject property is located on the northeast corner of Kings Canyon Road and South Jackson Avenue, just west of Maple Street. It is surrounded by various retail commercial uses to the east and west, single-family residential neighborhood to the north, and across to the south of Kings Canyon is the Fresno Fairgrounds. Currently, the subject property of which the existing building to be utilized is in the Corridor Center Mixed Use Zone District, and across the alley is a parking lot within the RS5 Medium Density Zone Planned Land Use Designation, which I will talk about further along in the presentation. So the proposed cannabis retail business will be within an existing commercial building that is approximately 2,130 square feet. They propose to operate between the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days per week, and anticipate having 1 armed security guard on site during operating hours, as well as 1 outside of operating hours. And the project does comply with the development standards of the CMX Zone District. As part of the requirements, they do have a neighborhood responsibility plan, which they are required to do to show that the business and its operating characteristics are not detrimental to the public health, safety, convenience, or welfare of persons residing, working, visiting, or recreating in the surrounding neighborhood, and will not result in the creation of a nuisance. As part of this, the neighborhood responsibility plan included such things as a crime prevention through environmental design, which identifies and results in a reduction of robberies compared to non-intervention locations. They have a complete management plan that will help increase response time to concerns of noise, light, odor, and vehicle pedestrian traffic, and as well as putting together an environmental committee that will review incident logs, daily, monthly walkthroughs, and review maintenance logs, and then revisit the plan initiatives quarterly based on those results. And as mentioned previously, the parking lot property, although in the medium-density residential zone district, it was approved back in 1974 with a rezone and site plan review. And as part of that, it was covenanted, which was, there was a covenant recorded that required this parking lot specifically to serve the development south of the alley, which is the existing commercial building. And it was, that covenant also specified it was only to be used as parking, not as the primary purpose of the use of the property to the south. With that said, it should also be noted that although this is a parking lot that can serve the use, anticipates to serve the use, and is covenanted to serve the use, the required minimum number of parking stalls provided based on the CMX zone district requirements are actually provided solely on the existing commercial building property, which this could function according to that without the property to the north, although it may be used. This is a map showing the existing approvals of cannabis CUPs in Council District 5. The code requires that a maximum of 3 cannabis retail businesses are approved or allowed within each council district. And currently, we do have 3 approvals. One at 2590 South Maple, 2, one at east of the proposed location, which is 4686 East Kings Canyon Road. That one is not in operation. The Maple Avenue is in operation currently. And 3, one just west of the subject property at 3849 East Ventura, which this was approved. This business coming here today, Fresno Farms, was approved for that location. Unfortunately, when that location was submitted and accepted, the GIS maps and everything did not have that there was a school being processed or even in process or going to be processed soon just to the south, which is now getting close to being constructed and operational. Thus, they are requesting this proposal, which is going just slightly east of that location. The Council District 5 Project Review Committee did hold a meeting on December 11th, 2023, and there were a few concerns brought forth by the committee, which included being in close proximity to Roosevelt High School, as well as the other nearby approved cannabis retail business to the east. And it looks like this covers slightly bit of it, but you can see, so the yellow is the subject property, and it is approximately 1,400 feet northwest, or I guess southeast of Roosevelt High School, as well as approximately 1,600 feet northwest of the other approved CUP, although they're not in operation, they are approved. The maximum, the minimum requirement is 800 feet, so anything beyond 800 feet would be allowed for in terms of another cannabis CUP, and this is in relation to schools and other approved CUP cannabis businesses. While processing the CUP, staff did mail a neighborhood notice, which was mailed on November 13th, 2023, which allows a 10-day comment period for all those property owners within 1,000 feet to provide comment. And from that, staff received one email from the council member with intention to appeal. But again, that was part of the process, so we did provide that. And with the notice of action, which is the approval document, that was posted on January 9th, 2024, with the appeal period 15 days later ending on January 24th, 2024. Within that appeal period, we did receive an appeal letter by Councilmember Chavez on January 11th, 2024, which is within it. And since then, we have received 2 phone calls in opposition, one on March 11th and one on March 14th, 2024. One of those is addressed in your staff report from March 11th, but March 14th came after, and that will be addressed in this presentation. Starting with the appeal letter, was submitted and stated to allow for discussion among the Planning Commission to assess the net impact on the surrounding neighborhood. And that was the first issue that was addressed or brought forth in the appeal letter. And staff's response to that is that there was a public hearing notice mailed on February 27th for tonight's hearing, and analysis of that project is provided within the staff report, which allows the commission to discuss and assess that impact of the proposed cannabis retail business on the surrounding neighborhood. The second issue brought forth in the appeal letter was to allow the public an opportunity to comment on the project. And our response, staff's response, is that there was a notice of intent to take action, as stated previously, that was sent out on November 13th, allowing people to provide comment, as well as a project review committee hearing being done on December 11th to also provide comment. With the phone calls, the first phone call, which was on March 11th, brought forth two issues. The first was the concern of business will be selling drugs in front of their house. And the response to that is that the cannabis retail business will be selling cannabis-related products consistent with the Fresno Municipal Code requirements set forth under the applicable chapter and sections. And the second issue of that phone call was that there is an excessive number of crimes in the area. The project is conditioned by the Fresno Police Department to comply with the security requirements for cannabis retail businesses, including but not limited to on-site armed security personnel and a surveillance camera system. The second phone call, which again was not addressed in the staff report, but is being addressed right now, there was one issue, and it was that the proposed cannabis retail business is down the street from the home, and they do not want that business to expose their kids to the cannabis dispensary. And the response is similar to that from before on selling drugs in front of the home, which, it's going to be consistent with selling cannabis-related products as required in the Fresno Municipal Code. It's conditioned by Fresno Police with security requirements, which also include that the Fresno Police Department requires that persons under the age of 21 are not allowed on the premises for that business, and security will ensure compliance of that requirement. Now, with that, I just want to leave on that based on tonight's presentation and the information provided in the staff report and staff's findings, it is staff's recommendation to uphold the director's decision to approve the conditional use permit and deny the appeal. It needs to be noted that a cannabis CUP decision can be invalidated if the ultimate decision is not supported by the adopted findings, or if the adopted findings are not supported by substantial evidence. Staff's recommendation for approval is supported by findings already stated in Exhibit D of the staff report. If a planning commissioner makes a motion that differs from staff's recommendation, the motion shall include a statement about which required finding or findings cannot be made supported by evidence in the record. That completes staff's presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
I didn't quite understand. There are 3 there now, and then this will be the 4th one, but only 3 are allowed.
Apologies, yes. I wasn't clear in that part of the presentation. So they do have an approved, the subject business today has an approved one currently, just west, but because of the school that's going to be opening, they have to move or relocate or extinguish their CUP. So as part of the requirements, they will extinguish their current CUP prior to this one being in operation, prior to the business being in operation. So they would have to extinguish their CUP to get this one moving forward.
I have a question. Given the fact that it's right across from the fairground, would that have any effect with the fact that the fairgrounds is more family-oriented during the fair events that happen in October?
The location requirements specify that either a public school, public or private school, a youth center, and another cannabis business or a daycare center are the 4 factors of location requirements within 800 feet. I do have the Office of Cannabis Oversight, members of the Office of Cannabis Oversight that can call on or describe what a youth center is, as that would be the only thing that could be considered, but it is not. And they can explain further on that for that answer, but it was not considered a youth center, which is specific, I think, because it's only for those that are youth or that are going. And considering the fairgrounds, it brings more than just youth, and with adults, it wouldn't be considered a youth center, but not to step on their toes, I can have them explain that further. And if there's any other questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Any other questions? No. Do you want to hear the explanation for the youth center?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Union Commission, David Densley, Office of Cannabis Oversight. So yeah, I'd definitely like to explain youth centers, but he absolutely detailed our 4 requirements in section 3307, which is both location and design of a retail cannabis business. So inside of it, a youth center, there's a long verbiage. I have a couple options. I can read that verbatim to you so you can hear the explanation per our ordinance, or I can detail kind of the key features in there. regarding your time, whatever you'd like.
How long is the verbatim?
It's 2 solid paragraphs.
Yeah, let's go ahead and read it, please.
Okay. So youth center means any public or private facility that is used primarily to host recreation or social activities for minors, including but not limited to private youth memberships, organizations or clubs, social teen club facilities, video arcades where 10 or more video games or game machine or devices are operated, and where minors are legally permitted to conduct business, or similar amusement park facilities. It shall also include a park, playground, or recreational area specifically designed to be used by children in which play equipment installed, including public grounds designed for athletic activities such as baseball, softball, soccer, or basketball, or similar activity located on public or private school grounds, on or city, county, or state parks. And then there is a section where it says the definition shall not include private martial arts, athletic training facilities, pizza parlor, dentist office, but that first section really hangs on primarily designed for children, as what the fairgrounds hosts a variety of peoples and families, is not specific for children, per the youth center definition.
Interesting. Any questions? Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have the applicant in attendance? It's on Zoom? Okay. If you're on Zoom, there you go.
Yes, hi, I'm here along with the co-applicants Rita Saluk and Kirill Merkulov. All of us are available to answer any questions. I do have a really short presentation to go through with you today, but in particular, I want to thank Rob Holt and Jennifer Ruiz for assisting us through this entire process, and we really appreciate you giving us the time to speak to you today, even if it is only virtually. We take the opportunity very seriously, and we do regret that we couldn't be there in person today, as we were for the City Council appeal hearing. We had flights forfeited from the last scheduled meeting, but were unable to change scheduled plans at short notice after the previous meeting was rescheduled. So just to start with the next slide, please. Our executive team has over 174 years of experience in highly regulated industries, including cannabis, healthcare, law, real estate, and finance. Next slide, please. Together, we operate 15 dispensaries across 5 states and growing. Next slide, please. We have a tried and true recipe for success, including our focus on maintaining the highest levels of security and surveillance. In fact, we have already implemented security measures on site, which resulted in calls to the police department from the premises, dropping from 9 documented incidents to 0, with no new instances of vandalism or loitering since implementation over 6 months ago. Included in our plan is our 24-hour surveillance, along with armed guards on site, as well as incident protocols, which allow us for appropriate escalation to management for prompt resolution. Minors will be prevented access to the facility with dual verification of IDs required for any individual to enter and to purchase product. Next slide, please. The location is on busy Kings Canyon Road, and we carefully evaluated the location's proximity to sensitive uses and the fairgrounds, and we believe that the site is actually ideal for improving safety and security while being mindful of seclusion from minors. Next slide, please. The site was particularly selected due to our ability to exercise full control over security, provide access to customers, including those with disabilities, and have ample parking and sufficient floor space. Next slide, please. We have a dearth of experience rehabbing blighted properties as bad or worse than the subject property. Next slide, please. This is a rendering of how we might anticipate the new building to look in the left with our improvements, and there will be no cannabis signage and a setback from the street with a landscaping buffer to further render the use inconspicuous. Next slide, please. We have detailed SOPs and protocols to ensure no ongoing nuisance issues. Next slide, please. We continually ask for feedback, and we have obtained 103 petitions in support, with nearly 50 of them being from property owners within 1,000 feet. And we also have 2 letters of support which were previously submitted to the city, and we have previously canvassed with neighbors, including the Behavioral Health Center, School District, the Fairground, homeowners, police department, and businesses. Next slide, please. We have conducted surveys on interest for positions and already have had many applicants reach out. Next slide, please. We provide excellent benefits and opportunities for job promotion with all employees and provide a rigorous 60-day training program for rapid advancement. Next slide, please. We are advocates for social equity programs and have already explored acquiring property in Fresno to be utilized to support social equity candidates. Next slide, please. We have already made several donations to local charities, including the Central California Food Bank and the Chabad of Fresno, and look forward to using our 2% impact fund to further work with the organizations listed, and have contacted all these organizations to let them know our plans. And we also look forward to working with others as well. My team and I welcome any questions, and we hope we can move forward past this appeal process and start working to build a great relationship with the city of Fresno.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission? Question, I know there's a minimum in regards to security. Are you looking to provide the minimum, or are you looking to kind of exceed that minimum in regards to security?
We provide industry-leading standards in terms of our security. We have top-of-the-line surveillance equipment. We actually go well beyond the expectations in terms of many of our security features. I think one of the most meaningful, particularly with the concern about minors, is our age verification process. When an individual enters our facility, they immediately have to present in the foyer, they have to present their identification. That identification is run through a 50-state scanner or passport scanner to confirm its authenticity. Our staff is also trained on how to identify faulty identification, fake identification. And so after the scan and after the individual at the desk confirms that the person is of age, they can then be let into the retail floor to conduct shopping, and they then have to present their ID again so that there is a second chance for identification to be reviewed prior to any sale being conducted. So we have both security features as well as security practices, which allow us to be leaders in the industry in terms of our security. It's a tried and tested recipe. As we said, we actually implemented a lot of security already at the site, and we already saw a measurable difference between what crime looked like at the site prior to us taking control and after. So, and we will only exceed that level of care once we actually occupy the site and we're able to have our armed guards there and we have an incident protocol procedure, which really allows us to escalate critical complaints very quickly. And all employees have access to ownership's phone numbers and have a detailed protocol and daily trainings, if not weekly, on how to conduct oneself during an incident. So we believe that that's one of our greatest strengths, is that we couple technology with process in order to really make sure that we're working together with the community and developing positive results. We also talk continually with the community, having quarterly neighborhood meetings to speak to the city, speak with the police department. We've been in great communication with our neighbors and as well as the police department to ensure that we're listening to any potential complaints, or concerns prior to them really becoming real complaints.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Carter?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your report. I do have a question Regarding security, and at certain times, especially during that high traffic, that high busy period of October, during the Big Fresno Fair, is there a policy or do you have anything in place that would amp the amount of security presence that will be there during that time period? And if you have not, what is the number of security presence that you have currently on paper to be at that location?
So let me answer that multiple fold. Number one, we do not have any cannabis signage on the facility. So, and the site is also secluded by its landscaping. So it's very unclear to a minor that there's any cannabis on site. You would really have to have kind of a familiarity with our company in order to know what's there. Now, in terms of extra security on site, so we would certainly be able to call additional security should there be extra traffic flow, which it would be expected during that time they would. And in our experience, our security guards were able to bring an extra guard on site within 15 minutes to a half hour. On a regular basis, we have one guard on site one armed guard on site during operating hours and one on guard on site during closed hours. And we also have remote monitoring as well. And so we're able to have, remote monitoring, check all cameras and review any potential threats as well. Nevertheless, we operate 15 dispensaries across 5 states. Many of these locations are busy. Many of them become more popular for, if there's concerts or anything going on. We're very close to a stadium at one of our facilities in Colorado, and we have not had any additional concerns that come to be because of these events, and we have the appropriate protocols in place should those incidents arise.
I have a question, excuse me. Not sure if it's for the applicant or staff. I have a concern about in a highly traveled area, especially during the fair with so much traffic, not so much with the store being guarded, but with the people who purchase their product and go out and drive or go to the fairgrounds after having purchased and used their product. And I know that marijuana does impair your ability to drive. It just seems to me it would be not a good idea to be we've probably all been to the fair, how much traffic there is there, and to have people who are, which is always a case, potentially impaired, but I think this would increase the potential they would be impaired because the marijuana is right there to buy. So I have a real concern about that, and I just wonder, has anybody looked into, I know the applicant mentioned that they have a facility by a stadium. Has there been any studies of increased accidents or arrests for impaired driving during these by these places where there are so many people? I would also be concerned because although the fairground is not specifically for children, it is very focused on children. There's even at that end of the fairground a child rides section. I know about that. And, there's a lot of exhibits there that are just for children. And I understand that the municipal code doesn't enumerate that specifically, but the fair is very family and child-oriented. And I would have a lot of concerns on those two bases.
Can I ask the commissioner a question? Is that appropriate? Just curious, I hear your concerns, but what about the alcohol and other functions that happen at the zoo? Not at the zoo, but the Fresno Fair at the same time.
I would also be concerned about that.
Yeah, I hear your concerns also.
This is just an the alcohol was already there. This is an added layer.
Commissioner Bray, if it's okay with you, I would love to be able to address this from our perspective as well. So in addition to as was aptly pointed out, there is not only alcohol that's allowed to be consumed at the fair. The actual one of the main advertisers, I believe, for the fair is Modelo. But that being aside, I want to point out that we as a cannabis business, our company actually has a specific motto to support responsible consumption, and we actually will not serve a customer if they do appear to be heavily under the influence. And we also, have educational material and have really taken it upon ourselves to train our bud tenders to only advocate for responsible consumption compliant with the law.
Thank you.
I did have one more question.
Commissioner Bray, just wanted to touch upon a couple of your questions that you had, if I may. So you asked about if there are any studies relative to, people driving, close proximity to, a fairgrounds or place where there's a lot of traffic. So we've seen various studies. So the cannabis use is relatively new. I would say that the studies that we've seen are inconclusive on whether they, increase traffic or traffic collisions, if there's a measurable increase. But I would say that, traffic by the fair is, when the fair is going on, the traffic is definitely slow. I don't know that someone would use that, Kings Canyon to access this site. They may use a back road. But again, we haven't seen any studies relative to, an increase in traffic collisions. And then relative to the use being a youth center, so we've researched that, and essentially what we found was that it's not primarily used for youth, so we felt that it meets that, or it doesn't meet a youth center.
One of the applicants' team also has additional information for you. Rita, go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm a CEO of the business, and I just wanted to take this moment to tell you just a little bit about us. I understand that cannabis is still novelty for many people, although it's more and more states, it becomes legal in more and more states. But still, I appreciate your concern. And I just wanted to give you a little bit from my experience. We own the first in the world licensed social consumption establishment in Denver, Colorado. With that, I had my anxieties. I was worried that people will come to the establishment and then they will drive impaired and then they will camp them and they're in loiter. So our establishment was the first one, and just because we survived and we showed everybody how to make it right, you will see more consumption lounges across the country. You cannot consume cannabis on the facilities or anywhere near facilities. Anywhere in our camera, people will not be able to consume any cannabis. Yes, nobody can prevent people from buying at our dispensary or any other dispensary, any product. Bring it where they're not supposed to consume and consume in public. Yes, it's against the law, and they're still doing it. But even more people consuming fentanyl, unfortunately, in those locations. And right now, fentanyl crises are huge. So we are right now launching another company, and we're going to be operational like really anytime. Things changed around the world, and what was called drugs before and had a terrible name for, right now they're using to treat addictions. So MDMA will be approved by the end of September by FDA to treat PTSD. Hopefully it will help those people who go to fentanyl as a resort and getting stuck in such a terrible reality. It will help people in Fresno. And I can assure you that all of our establishment will not contribute to any loitering, any mishandling of the law, and putting people in danger. the way our establishments are, that people walking into them and they know that they cannot misbehave.
Awesome.
That's establishment telling about this. This is how our coffee joint set up, and this is what we're proud about. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just had a quick question, if it could just be quick. What's your timeline on construction if it does get approved? Are you guys planning on immediately starting, or is it a year from now?
We will be starting immediately, but starting with plans. I believe we already started on building permit plans, but it's gonna go through the building permits and all the correct route. And then after COVID, constructions become a little faster, so hopefully soon.
Thank you.
And I want to point out, so we have one other facility in California, and we were one of the, it was a competitive license process there as well. And we were one of the first 2 stores to open in Oxnard, California. And we take that same initiative here, and we'll be working diligently to get the facility open as soon as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll go ahead and, if there's no more questions from the commission, we'll go out to the public. Do we have any individuals who would like to speak in support? Any individuals on Zoom?
Yes, just a moment.
Please let me know too if you need translation services, so that way we can go ahead and give you ample time.
Luis?
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Luis Rosales, and I started looking at Yuma Way, Fresno Farms, back when before the city council had their meeting and everything else. And I live in Southeast Fresno. I live, close to the fairgrounds and close to these other places that you've been talking about here. And I feel that this is, for me, for Southeast Fresno, for the community, would be a benefit. I know a lot of these dispensaries are already up and running up in north side of Fresno, but it seems like not only this project, but a lot of other things, we get put on the, on the table as far as Southeast Fresno is concerned. And this company, to me, number one, it's a very reputable company. You have good reputation. Number two, they're very professional. And most important, number three, they help out the community by investing in ongoing projects, you might say, like such as the street cleanup, because I know we're always trying to keep the corridor clean there. I was a business owner on the corridor, but I'm sort of semi-retired now, but that was one of the main things to keep it clean. And I know that this company has already, invested in these nonprofits already, which I'm sure that they will continue to do, and even more so in the years to come. So yes, I'm all for something like this. I don't think there'll be any more accidents than there already are, along Kings Canyon or anywhere else. But yes, please put me down that yes, I do support this strongly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other individuals who would like to speak in support?
No more hands at this time.
All right, we'll go ahead and now go to the public. Any individuals who would like to speak in opposition? Any on Zoom?
No hands at this time.
Go ahead and announce it again. Any individuals who would like to speak in opposition?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and close any public comments. We'll bring it back to the commission. comments motion. I do want to make a comment. I do encourage the business. It's great that you're coming into Fresno and creating these jobs. And, the first thing a lot of these outside businesses will do is when they want to go ahead and make an impact in the community, they'll donate a lot to these larger nonprofits. I do encourage a lot of these businesses to go and try to seek those smaller nonprofits because your impact can be a lot greater when you work with these local, smaller nonprofits. That being said, do we have any further comments, motions?
I do have a comment. My comment is a comment of concern. While I agree with our chair, the opportunity to bring jobs into our community, into our city, I think we really need to take in consideration what Commissioner Bray was speaking of regarding security. And I know that there is alcohol sales that are done at our during our fair, but let's also remember that while those sales are done enclosed inside of the fair, there is ample amount of police presence inside of the fair. And I believe part of my concern is during the fair, high traffic, high attended time period of those, I believe, 10 days, if the company would consider strongly stepping up security. The presence of security wards off unnecessary traffic. And even if there is not signage present, let's not forget this is Fresno. Everyone knows where things are. And between now and October, it's not going to be hard not to know that there's a dispensary that's present right across the street from where there is a fair that's being done. And if you go to the fair as much as many of us have done since we've been in Fresno, that is probably one of the only attractions that Fresno has that resembles an amusement park, and it's only here for a couple of days. So the thought of high traffic being around the dispensary is going to be well documented. And to have security present at that time frame would be wise, in my personal opinion. And that is not any knock against what's going on at the fair, but this is outside of the fair. There's kids that hang out outside the fair. A lot of teenagers that hang out because a lot of them don't pay to get in, so they hang out outside. So let's not be naive to the fact that our kids and some adults as well will frequent that location, stand out front of it or whichever. And to have one security guard is very alarming to me. It gives me pause for concern. That's my comment.
Do we have the ability to approve the CUP with the stipulation that they require 2 security guards during public events?
Well, I think that's only 2 weeks out of the year, correct? And I think it's also important, which I agree, but I think, my comment would be is the fair probably has the most police and combination of police, security, and all of the above surrounding. I'm not opposed of asking the applicant if she would agree for 2 weeks to have additional security. That's my comment.
I think I share in the same sentiment as Commissioner Kreiner that if we do approve the CUP, I would want to impose the fact that they would require 2 security guards if we're able to do that.
Yes. In your findings, you could consider additional security under the health, safety, and welfare finding during the period of the fair would be consistent with the findings in the municipal code.
I would support that.
If I may, I also have a concern because it's not just the fairgrounds during the fair. It's also the Hmong New Year's and other family events that happen there. So I'm wondering if it's only going to be 2 weeks or maybe something that could be stipulated for them to just have a second security person on their staff.
I just have a hard time opposing more and more scrutinizing items to applicants. I believe I'm not a public safety expert, but one security in an establishment armed, to me, seems sufficient. I mean, I think it's sufficient enough for the state and the city to agree. I am in support of having one of you guys make a motion for 2 weeks. I just have a hard time supporting an additional regulation on our business development.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. Okay. My motion is going to be approve staff's recommendation, but the stipulation that the applicant is required to have an additional security during the public event of the Fresno Fairgrounds and the Hmong New Year's, which is a 1-week event. That's my motion.
I will second that.
Okay. So a motion made by myself.
So just to be clear, it's those 2 events only?
2 events only.
Seems reasonable.
Motion made by me and a second by Commissioner Diaz. Let's go ahead and please take a roll on this one, please.
Commissioner Lyday. Commissioner Diaz.
Yes.
Commissioner Bray.
No.
Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Kreiner.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hardy.
Yes.
Chair Vang.
Yes. Motion's approved. All right, do we have any reports from the Secretary?
Good evening, Chair. I do not have any new reports tonight.
All right. Do we have any unscheduled oral communications from the public? Any on Zoom?
No, sir.
All right, it's currently 7:03. Thank you for your time. Everyone, have a wonderful evening.